Some betrayals do not begin with another woman. They begin quietly, with a man forgetting the hands that held him when he had nothing, with a man becoming proud of the success he did not build alone, with a man looking at the woman who sacrificed for him and suddenly treating her like she was part of the poverty he escaped. This is the story of a woman named Miriam, a woman who loved a man before the world clapped for him, a woman who believed in his dream when even his own relatives called him useless, a woman who built him with prayer, patience, money, silence, hunger, and hope. And when he finally stood tall, he betrayed her. But what he did not know was this: some women cry because they are weak, but some women cry because they are washing their eyes, so they can finally see clearly. Miriam met Daniel when he had nothing but ambition, not the kind of ambition that impresses people from far, the kind that only a woman in love can see. He was living in a small single room behind a row of old shops. The room had cracked walls, a leaking roof, and one small window that barely opened. His mattress was on the floor. His clothes were folded inside a cardboard box. His cooking area was a small charcoal stove placed outside the door. Daniel had a dream. He wanted to own a transport company one day. He used to say it with fire in his voice. "One day, Miriam, I will own trucks. Not one, not two, many. People will know my name." Miriam would smile. Not because she was sure it would happen, but because she believed in the man saying it. At that time, Daniel was working as a driver for a hardware shop. The salary was small, and sometimes the owner delayed payment. But Daniel always talked like a man who was temporarily poor, not permanently defeated. That is what Miriam loved about him. He was not lazy, he was not hopeless. He was not a man who sat around waiting for people to rescue him. He just needed someone to believe in him before life gave him proof. And Miriam became that person. When they got married, people whispered. Her aunt pulled her aside and said, "My daughter, love is good, but poverty has teeth. Be careful." Her older cousin laughed and said, "You are educated. You have a job. Why are you marrying a man who still cooks outside his room?" But Miriam did not listen. She was not marrying Daniel's present situation. She was marrying the future she believed they could build together. Their wedding was small. No expensive decor, no big hotel, no convoy of cars. Just family, a few friends, a simple cake, and two people who believed love could survive anything. After the wedding, Miriam moved into Daniel's small room. The first night, rain fell heavily. Water entered through the roof and dropped near the corner where they had placed their clothes. Miriam woke up at midnight and found Daniel trying to block the leak with an old basin. He looked embarrassed. He said, "I am sorry, this is not the life I wanted to give you." Miriam stood up, helped him move their things, and said, "Then we will build the life we want." Those words became her promise. And for years, Miriam kept that promise. She worked as a receptionist at a private clinic. Her salary was not much, but she managed it with discipline. She paid rent when Daniel's salary was delayed. She bought food. She helped him send money to his mother. She ironed his shirts before work. She packed lunch for him so he could save money. When Daniel started talking seriously about buying his first second-hand pickup, Miriam did not laugh. She opened a small savings group account. Every month, she put aside part of her salary. Daniel also contributed what he could. But many times, life interrupted him. His younger brother needed school fees. His mother fell sick. His employer delayed wages again. So Miriam carried the dream quietly. She did not announce it. She did not remind him every day. She simply kept saving. When they finally bought the pickup, Daniel cried. He touched the steering wheel like it was a miracle. "Miriam," he whispered, "you are my blessing." Smiled and said, "No, we are just beginning." That pickup changed their life. Daniel started transporting construction materials, sand, cement, timber, tiles, anything that could pay. He woke up before sunrise and came home late at night, covered in dust. Miriam helped with the records. She wrote down customers, payments, fuel costs, repairs, debts, everything. Daniel was good with people, but Miriam was good with numbers. She noticed when customers underpaid. She reminded him to follow up. She calculated profit after fuel. She warned him when mechanics were overcharging. Sometimes, after coming home from her clinic job, she would sit at their small table until midnight balancing the books. Daniel would fall asleep on the chair. Miriam would look at him and smile softly. She was tired too. But tiredness feels different when you believe you are building something. 2 years later, they bought a second pickup, then a small truck, then another. By the 5th year of marriage, Daniel was no longer just a driver. He was the owner of Dima Logistics. People began calling him boss. Men who once ignored him now greeted him with respect. Relatives who once mocked him began saying, "We always knew Daniel was destined for greatness." Miriam heard those words and remained silent. She knew who believed in him when there was nothing to admire. She knew who stretched one packet of flour for 3 meals. She knew who wore the same shoes for 2 years so the business could survive. She knew who stayed awake with him when the first truck broke down and they had no money for repairs. But Miriam was not bitter. She did not need public credit. She believed marriage was partnership. If Daniel rose, they rose. If Daniel succeeded, the family succeeded. That was how she saw it. But slowly, Daniel began to change. At first, it was small. He stopped asking Miriam to look at the accounts. He said, "You are always tired. Let me hire someone." Miriam thought it was kindness. Then he hired a young accountant named Vanessa. Vanessa was polished, soft-spoken, always dressed well. She called Daniel sir in a voice that made him sit straighter. Miriam noticed, but she did not judge. She was not insecure. She trusted her husband. But then Daniel started coming home later. He stopped eating dinner with the family. When Miriam asked, he said, "Business is growing. You cannot understand the pressure." That sentence hurt her, not because it was loud, but because it erased the years when she understood every pressure before anyone else did. Still, she stayed calm. She told herself, he is just stressed. Then he bought a new car, a black SUV. He did not tell Miriam before buying it. He simply drove into the compound one evening, honked loudly, and stepped out smiling. Neighbors came out to admire it. "Boss Daniel," they shouted. Miriam stood at the doorway holding their youngest child. She smiled because people were watching, but inside something shifted. Not because he bought a car, but because she realized she had become someone he informed after decisions were made. That night, she asked gently, "Daniel, why didn't you tell me you were buying the car?" He removed his watch, placed it on the dressing table, and said, "Must I report everything to you?" Miriam froze. He continued, "You women like controlling everything. I worked hard. I bought myself a car. Is that a crime?" Miriam looked at him. This was the same man who once asked her before buying a spare tire. The same man who once brought every receipt home. The same man who used to say, "Miriam, without you, this business would not exist." Now he was speaking as if she was an obstacle. She wanted to argue. But something in his tone told her the argument would not be about the car. It would be about respect. And respect cannot be begged into a proud heart. So she said nothing. After that, Daniel changed faster. He started dressing differently. New suits, expensive shoes, perfume that filled the room before he entered. He changed his phone password. He laughed at messages and turned the screen away when Miriam came close. He started traveling for business meetings on weekends. When Miriam questioned him, he became angry. "You want me to remain poor so you can feel important?" Those words entered Miriam like a knife. She said, "Daniel, I never wanted you poor." He laughed coldly. "Then stop behaving like you own me because you helped me." Miriam stepped back. Helped him? Was that what he called it now? Help, not sacrifice, not partnership, not building. Help. That night, Miriam did not sleep. She lay beside him, staring at the ceiling, listening to the breathing of a man whose body was near, but whose heart had traveled far away. She remembered their first room, the leaking roof, the basin catching rainwater, the young Daniel who apologized because he wanted better for her. Where had that man gone? And when did success become the road that carried him away from humility? The truth came out through a mistake. One Saturday afternoon, Daniel left his second phone at home. He had gone to shower, the phone rang. Miriam was not planning to answer, but the name on the screen made her pause. Vanessa, office. She knew office calls were usually handled on his main phone. The phone stopped ringing. Then a message came in. Baby, are you still coming tonight? I miss you. Don't let her delay you again. Miriam stood still. The room became quiet. Even the sounds outside felt far away. She read the message again. Baby, her, delay you. There are moments in life when your heart does not break loudly. It simply stops defending the person who broke it. Daniel came out of the bathroom humming. He saw the phone in Miriam's hand. His face changed, not with guilt first, with anger. Why are you touching my phone? Miriam looked at him and asked, How long? Daniel grabbed the phone. Miriam, don't start. How long, Daniel? He avoided her eyes. Then he said the sentence many guilty people say when they want to reduce the size of their betrayal. It is not what you think. Miriam laughed once. A dry, painful laugh. What should I think? Daniel wore his shirt slowly. She's just someone who understands me. Miriam stared at him. Understands you? Yes, she respects me. She does not remind me of where I came from. Miriam's lips parted, but no words came out. Daniel continued, now defending his betrayal like a man giving a business presentation. You changed too, Miriam. You are always tired, always serious, always asking questions. Vanessa makes me feel alive. Miriam felt something inside her go cold. She had been tired because she was raising their children, working, managing the home, and still carrying silent responsibilities he no longer saw. She had been serious because someone had to remember school fees, groceries, staff salaries, loan repayments, tax deadlines, customer debts, and the cracks forming in their marriage. But now her tiredness was being used as evidence against her. She asked quietly, Did you sleep with her? Daniel looked down away. That was the answer. Miriam sat down, not because she was weak, because grief can remove strength from the knees. Daniel expected shouting, crying, insults, maybe even begging. But Miriam became silent. That silence frightened him more than noise. He said, Look, I made a mistake. Men make mistakes. Don't destroy a family because of one mistake. Miriam looked at him. One mistake does not have a second phone. Daniel had no answer. The days that followed were heavy. Daniel apologized in the morning, then became defensive by evening. He bought flowers, then complained when Miriam did not smile. He sent money, then said she should be grateful. He told his mother, and his mother called Miriam. My daughter, you know men. A wise woman protects her home. Miriam listened respectfully. Then Daniel's aunt called. Do not let another woman eat what you suffered for. Even her own friend said after building him, You cannot leave now. That girl will enjoy everything. Miriam heard all of them, but none of them asked the real question. What does it cost a woman to stay where her dignity is being buried daily? Everyone was concerned about the property. The marriage name, the children, the other woman, the shame. But nobody asked Miriam whether her heart still had a safe place to rest. For a while, she tried. Not because she was foolish. Because leaving a marriage you built with your whole life is not easy. She tried counseling. Daniel attended once, then said the counselor was biased. She tried prayer. She prayed until her pillow knew more tears than sleep. She tried being softer, tried dressing better, tried talking less, tried cooking his favorite meals. But betrayal has a way of making innocent people audition for love they already earned. And one day, Miriam became tired of auditioning. The final insult happened at a company dinner. Dima Logistics had won a major contract, and Daniel hosted suppliers, clients, and staff at a hotel. Miriam dressed beautifully that evening. A navy blue dress, simple jewelry, her hair neatly styled. She looked elegant, but in a quiet way. When they arrived, people greeted Daniel with excitement. "Boss? Chairman? Big man?" Daniel smiled like a king entering his palace. Miriam walked beside him. Then she saw Vanessa. She was standing near the front table, wearing a fitted red dress, laughing with staff like she belonged there. Daniel saw her too. His face softened in a way Miriam had not seen in months. Vanessa came over. "Good evening, sir." Her eyes moved briefly to Miriam. "Madam," Miriam nodded. During the speeches, Daniel stood to speak. He thanked his staff, his clients, his suppliers, his accountant, Vanessa, for bringing structure and professionalism to the company. People clapped. Then he said, "When I started, people doubted me. But I pushed myself. I worked day and night. I built this company from nothing." Miriam sat still. Not we, not my wife, not my family, not the woman who saved for the first pickup, not the woman who balanced books at midnight, not the woman who believed in me when I had no chair for guests, just I. And as people clapped, Miriam felt something inside her finally release. She was not angry, she was awake. That night, when they returned home, Daniel was cheerful. He removed his jacket and said, "The event was good, right?" Miriam said, "Yes, very good." He noticed her tone. "What is wrong now?" She looked at him. "Nothing is wrong. I just finally understand." "Understand what?" "That you did not only betray me with Vanessa. You betrayed me with the story you now tell yourself." Daniel frowned. "What nonsense is that?" Miriam spoke calmly. "You have rewritten your life and removed me from the pages." Daniel laughed. "Here we go again." But Miriam did not argue. She went to the bedroom. That night, she made a decision. Not loudly, not dramatically. Quietly, the way women make decisions when they are truly done. Over the next few months, Miriam began preparing. She did not announce it. She did not threaten divorce every week. She did not fight Vanessa online. She did not embarrass Daniel publicly. She started gathering documents, marriage certificate, business records, property papers, bank statements, school receipts, old savings records, messages. She met a lawyer quietly. She learned what belonged to the family, what had been moved, what had been hidden. She discovered Daniel had started changing company shares. Some assets were being moved into another name. Some money had gone into an apartment Vanessa was using. That discovery hurt. But it also strengthened her, because sometimes truth is painful, but it is also a door. Once you see it clearly, you cannot keep pretending the wall is still there. Miriam also started rebuilding herself. At first, she did not know who she was outside being Daniel's wife. For years, her identity had been tied to supporting him. When people introduced her, they said, "This is Daniel's wife." Not Miriam. Not the woman with wisdom. Not the woman with business sense. Daniel's wife. So she asked herself a painful question. Who am I when I stop holding a man who no longer values my hands? The answer did not come immediately, but it came slowly. She remembered that she was good with numbers. Good with planning. Good with organizing. Good with people. Good with turning confusion into structure. So Miriam started helping small traders with records. At first, it was one woman who owned a salon. Then a shopkeeper. Then a small restaurant owner. She charged little in the beginning, but her work was excellent. She helped them know their profit. Separate business money from personal money, track debts, reduce waste. Plan stock. Soon, people started referring others. Go to Miriam. She will arrange your business properly. For the first time in years, Miriam earned money that had nothing to do with Daniel. Not because he gave it, not because she asked, because she created value. And with every payment, something returned to her face. Confidence. Not loud confidence, quiet confidence. The kind that does not need to prove itself. Daniel noticed. He noticed she no longer asked where he was going. He noticed she no longer checked his mood before speaking. He noticed she no longer waited for him to come home before eating. He noticed she was dressing better, sleeping better, smiling sometimes at her phone, not because of another man, but because clients were thanking her. That disturbed him. A woman crying over you can feed your ego, but a woman healing from you can frighten your pride. One evening, Daniel asked, "What is this business you are doing?" Miriam said, "Bookkeeping and business support." He laughed. "So now you think you are a business consultant?" Miriam looked at him calmly. Double quotes, "No, I know I am useful." That answer silenced him, because it did not beg. It did not attack. It simply stood. Then came the day Miriam left. Daniel returned home and found the house unusually neat. The children were at her sister's place. Some clothes were gone. Not everything, just enough. Miriam was sitting at the dining table with an envelope. Daniel looked around. "What is happening?" Miriam stood. "I am leaving." He stared at her, then laughed. "Leaving where?" "To a place where I can breathe." His face hardened. "You are joking." "No." Daniel threw his keys on the table. "So after everything we built, you want to walk away?" Miriam looked at him. "Daniel, I am not walking away from what we built. I am walking away from what you destroyed." He stepped closer. "You think you can survive without me?" There it was. The sentence that reveals what pride truly believes. Not, "I am sorry." Not, "Please stay." Not, "How did I hurt you so deeply?" But, "You cannot survive without me." Miriam picked up her bag. "I survived before you respected me. I will survive after you stopped." Daniel's voice rose. "You will regret this." "No, Daniel." Miriam paused at the door. "I already regretted staying longer than my spirit wanted." And she left. Not with shouting. Not with drama. Not with revenge. She left like a woman carrying the last pieces of herself away from a burning house. The first months were not easy. Let nobody lie to you. Freedom can still hurt. Peace can still feel lonely at first. There were nights Miriam sat on the floor of her small rented apartment and cried quietly after the children slept. Not because she wanted Daniel back, but because she was grieving the life she thought they would have. One day at a time. Her business grew. She named it Miriam Ledger Care. She started with small businesses in her neighborhood. Then she added tax filing support, then payroll, then training sessions for women running small shops. She taught them what life had taught her. Do not build blindly. Love is beautiful, but keep records. Support your partner, but do not disappear inside their dream. Marriage is not a reason to lose your name. Women listened. Some cried. Meanwhile, Daniel's life began to crack. Not immediately. At first, he acted fine. He posted photos, new suits, business meetings, smiling beside vehicles. People commented, "Big man." Vanessa moved more openly around him. She enjoyed the attention, she enjoyed the car, the apartment, the shopping. The hotel dinners. But Vanessa had fallen in love with Daniel's success, not his struggle. She loved the finished building, not the foundation. And Daniel, he once thought admiration was love, slowly began to learn the difference. When business became difficult, Vanessa was not patient. When clients delayed payment, she complained. When trucks needed repairs, she asked why he was stressed. When Daniel wanted comfort, she wanted lifestyle. The company also suffered. Daniel had removed Miriam from the records. Money started leaking. Fuel theft increase. Drivers lied. Customers delayed payments. Vanessa missed important tax deadlines. Suppliers began demanding cash up front. Daniel shouted more. Staff resigned. Contracts slowed down. And for the first time in years, Daniel sat in his office late at night and remembered Miriam. Not the Miriam he had mocked. The real Miriam. The woman who saw problems before they became disasters. The woman who stretched money without making noise. The woman who prayed over him when he was discouraged. The woman who clapped for him before the world knew his name. He remembered the first pickup. The rain. The basin. The words she had spoken. Then we will build the life we want. Daniel covered his face with his hands, because memory can be merciless when pride finally becomes quiet. One afternoon, Daniel went to see Miriam. Her office was small but beautiful. Clean shelves, files arranged neatly. A small plant near the window. Two women waiting for consultation. A young assistant at the desk. On the wall was a framed quote. Build with love, but never abandon yourself. Daniel stood at the entrance for a moment. He had expected to find her struggling. Instead, he found her becoming. Miriam came out of her office holding a file. When she saw him, she stopped. Her face did not change much. No panic. No excitement. No fear. Just calm. Daniel. He swallowed. Miriam. She asked her assistant to give them a moment. They sat inside her office. For a few seconds, Daniel looked around. You have done well. Miriam nodded. Thank you. He cleared his throat. I came to talk. She waited. He looked older, not poor. Not broken completely, but humbled in a way success had once hidden. He said, I made many mistakes. Miriam said nothing. He continued, I hurt you. I disrespected you. I forgot what you did for me. Miriam looked at him quietly. He breathed deeply. I thought being successful made me powerful. But I was foolish. I confused attention for love. I confused praise for respect. I allowed pride to poison me. His voice shook. I am sorry. Miriam listened. The apology was late. But it was real. She could feel that. Still, a real apology does not automatically rebuild a destroyed home. Daniel leaned forward. Can we try again? Miriam closed her eyes briefly. Not because she was tempted. Because that question touched the grave of a dream she had once loved. When she opened her eyes, they were gentle. No, Daniel. He looked wounded. Miriam, then why not give me a chance? I hope you have. She looked at him with the kind of sadness that has already made peace with itself. Because I already gave you years. Daniel lowered his head. She continued, I forgive you, truly, not because what you did was small, but because I refuse to carry bitterness into the life I am building. He looked up. But forgiveness is not an invitation back into my life. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. I lost you, Miriam nodded slowly. Yes, but you lost me long before I left. Those words entered him deeply. Because they were true. He had lost her in every insult, every secret, every lie. Every time he made her feel like a burden after she had been his bridge. He had lost her when he rewrote his story and removed her name. And by the time her body walked out, her heart had already packed and gone. Daniel stood to leave. At the door, he turned back. Do you hate me? Miriam shook her head. No. Then what do you feel? She looked outside the window. The sun was entering softly through the curtains. For once, he did not argue. He Daniel left quietly. Nodded. And Miriam did not collapse after he left. She did not run after him. She did not call her friends crying. She sat at her desk, opened the next client file, and continued working. Because healing is not always a dramatic moment. Sometimes healing is simply realizing that the person who once had power over your emotions can enter and leave a room, and your peace remains seated. Years later, people still talked about Daniel and Miriam, but the story changed. At first they said, she left after building him. Then they said she was strong. Then they said she built herself too. Miriam's business expanded. She opened training programs for women entrepreneurs. She helped young wives understand financial partnership. She helped widows organize family businesses. She helped single mothers start small income projects. She became the woman people called when they wanted clarity. And whenever a younger woman came to her and said, "I want to support my man, but I am afraid he will betray me," Miriam would smile gently. She would say, "Do not be afraid of love. Just do not confuse love with disappearing." She would tell them, "A good man will rise with you and still remember your hands. A proud man will use your hands as a ladder, then complain that you are standing too close." And then she would say the most important lesson: build together, yes. Sacrifice, yes. Believe in someone, yes. But never become so busy building another person that you forget God also placed a life inside you. Miriam did not become bitter. That was her victory. She did not spend her life warning women against men. She simply taught them to value themselves inside love. Because betrayal can break a woman. But sometimes, betrayal becomes the painful doorway back to herself. Daniel continued with his business, but he was never the same. He became quieter, more careful, less proud. Some people said he changed after losing Miriam. Maybe he did. But some lessons arrive after the blessing has already left. And that is the tragedy of pride. It often understands value only after it has destroyed access. As for Miriam, she never regretted loving Daniel. She regretted the years she ignored her own pain. She regretted shrinking to keep peace. She regretted explaining respect to someone who benefited from her silence, but she did not regret building, because building had taught her something. The same strength she used to build him was still inside her. And when she finally turned that strength toward her own life, everything changed. So, if you are listening to this and you have ever built someone who later betrayed you, remember this. Your sacrifice was not foolish. Your love was not weakness. Your loyalty was not stupidity. The wrong person may fail to honor what you gave, but that does not reduce the value of your heart. Just do not abandon yourself trying to prove your worth to someone committed to forgetting it. Some people will only appreciate your light after they have chosen darkness. Let them learn from the shadow. You keep walking, you keep healing, you keep rebuilding. Because the woman who helped someone rise from nothing can rise again too. And this time, she will not build from blindness. She will build from wisdom. She will build from dignity. She will build from peace. And peace, after betrayal, is not small. It is the sound of a woman finally coming home to herself.